Freeman Schneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. And Greg, I see that you are football prepared, but I have a plant prepared. So I got my new swag for National Nutrition Month.
That's so last week. It's NFL season now.
Yeah, it is NFL season. So yeah, but I'm a week late, but we celebrate all month. We celebrate National
That's true.
Nutrition Month all
We
month.
got a whole month, and football goes into February, so we can take it back seat to fruit and veggie month. I think that's fair.
Well, this week we had, I don't know, it was kind of a bummer news week almost. There wasn't anything that was really uplifting. There's one like highlight that I really enjoyed. But the first thing that we had, and it was a news release that I just, I glanced over and I'm like, that's interesting. And it kind of seems like it's telling us good news for restaurants. It was some organization that sells software called Restaurant 365 saying that good news for restaurant operators, sales were up 12%. Was that volume or dollars?
It says customer sales, and 12% is it's below what the government says inflation is, but it's above what real people understand inflation is. And the more we look into this, the more we start to think this is not necessarily good news. That's from Q1 to Q2, and inflation was just as bad throughout Q2, which I guess ended in June. So we're in Q3 now. Q3 will go through the end of this month. I'm not getting the feeling like food service is rocking it.
Yeah, another point that they pulled out was a study from Q1 that said 1,000 consumers, 29% of them said it was cheaper to order from a restaurant than to buy all of the items that you need for a meal. And you had a really great analogy for that. I mean, if you're staying at the Residence Inn and you want to use that kitchen and you got to go buy all the ingredients for your meal, then by golly, it is cheaper to DoorDash that than to go buy little bottles of ketchup and baking soda and whatever you need to cook your meal for that evening. But regular, everyday, ordinary families typically can buy groceries. And this is a way that I really think that grocery store people, recipe generation blogs, advocacy organizations, I'm looking at you, Produce Moms, I'm looking at you, Healthy Families Projects. We need to be talking to families about, and PBH, by the way, I've got my PBH gear on, about how to shop to use your food, use all of it, first of all, and use it efficiently and cost effectively plan your meals. That is, I think, priority number one for consumers right now is how do I maximize what I'm getting for the least amount of money? I mean, like, how do I save money, first of all? And then how do I use everything? And how do I plan across meals? Because if you are just buying a bag of carrots for one meal and forgetting the bag of carrots in your crisper drawer until carrots come up again 3 weeks later, then you're not shopping efficiently. So this is a reminder. This is an opportunity for people to really be thinking about how we're reaching out to consumers right now.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you said, what are we eating? We're eating the food we already bought. That's what we're eating.
We have food at home.
I just went to the store and spent $150. We're gonna eat that food.
Yes.
Yes, and produce does really well with that because it's very versatile and it goes across meals. And you buy a head of lettuce, you can eat that sucker for 8 meals. I mean, if everyone's not eating it all up at once.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. But on the flip side of that, we had another story this week about prepared foods in retail and how UNFI is expanding some of that stuff. I continue to see that is a major winner at retail.
Right. I mean, HEB is opening a new store. They're actually opening the 3rd store in the DFW area. For the longest time, all they had was Central Market. And now that, red wave of HEB is going north in Texas, and they are repurposing a lot of the space that they're doing in their stores to this Meal Simple what is it, meal simple concept, where it is grab and go and different meal occasions. They've got breakfast food, they've got lunch food, they've got dinner food, and it's a take and bake. Basically, you're taking the salmon and green beans and rice and throwing it either in the microwave or in the oven. And that is ending up being, I think those are like anywhere from $7 to $10 a serving, and that's getting close to parity with the way that a lot of people cook these days. And I can remember back in the early days of meal kits when you looked at the cost per meal and you're like $9 or $10. Oh my gosh. And now when I'm meal planning at home, I'm like, wow, I only spent $6 per person on this meal. It's getting a little dicey out there. So cost per person, cost per meal, those are all things that I think we have a lot of education that we can do, but also retailers can go, hey, if you buy this 4-pack of whatever this meal that we're putting together for you, you're saving money compared to going to Panera or something like that for dinner.
Now the restaurants still have the advantage of, I mean, there's no work, there's no cleanup, it's so convenient. It's fun to go out. So they still have that, but that is, I mean, the price, I mean, I think I would play that price per meal up a little more at retail. I
Yeah,
mean, that
price per meal and versatility, and how many different ways are you repurposing what you're buying? Is that this bag of carrots is not just one thing. It's snacks for the kids tomorrow for lunch. It is, it is roast carrots for your pot roast on Tuesday. It's a lot of different things, and I think there's a lot of different ways that the retail industry, at least, can play that up.
So are you going to go to the True Food Kitchen now that they've had this $100 million expansion courtesy of people like Nick Jonas?
I mean, okay, so I think I missed like the age group of people who for whom Nick Jonas is relevant, because I got too much gray hair for that. But to see a restaurant concept like True Food Kitchen get $100 million in this economy, right? To expand its concept. I love that idea, because I love the idea of restaurants not just providing calories, but restaurants offering an option for when you are out and you're going home from soccer practice or whatever, and everyone's hangry. Can we please have something that's good for you to eat? I love that idea, and I love to see that it's expanding. It's got to be able to expand with that kind of injection of cash.
It is. I mean, it's one of those ones you root for because they use a lot of produce, and produce is real food and whole food, and that's something that our industry should be rooting for. Um, I mean, I love making fun of celebrities doing stupid crap, but investing in actual good for people things, that really should be commended. But ultimately, people have to want to go. I mean, there have been plenty of concepts that were healthy that have failed because people just wouldn't buy it. And
Right,
here we
right. So
have
now,
all those QSRs with, I mean, everyone knows most of that stuff is not good for you, and they just keep plugging along.
right, yeah. We also had one more mergers and acquisitions. We saw a lot of, when the pandemic started, people were like, we're going to see a lot of mergers go on because the bigger are going to chomp up the smaller. But we saw two of the largest of those concepts that are the ugly produce. Imperfect Foods is getting acquired by Misfits Market. And that one for me, I was like, whoa, that's some interesting news. Both of these are direct to consumer concepts. Somebody on my street, I see the Imperfect Foods truck go by once a week when they're dropping off their stuff. They also give the boxes away on Buy Nothing because it's an amazing box, apparently. But the to see those two, I thought was really interesting, and it makes me wonder what does that mean for how these concepts are doing? Was one of them, you know, acquisition bait because it wasn't doing so well?
I don't.
Well,
Yeah. They're not going to say. I mean, we would have to dig a lot deeper. One of the things that stood out to me that completely makes sense is it's a good concept, but it really will only work at an economy of scale. And if you're too small, you can't possibly do this profitably. And they did acknowledge that that was one of the ways. Um, that this makes sense is that they can combine things and make it more efficient to do this concept.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens too, because Imperfect had built quite a brand and a lot of recognizability. So we'll see if it rebrands into Misfits Markets or if it continues to operate out there on its own. But
They
for
threw
now,
out reaching the goal to reach profitability by early 2024. So that's only a year and a half
mhm.
or less, maybe. I mean, that's pretty ambitious, and that's I would salute them if they made it there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Weekend Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.